And I apologize in advance. I have a little bit of a cold going here, but and it's another one of those evenings where I need 3 hands, laser pointer, clicker, and microphone. But the purpose of our evening is to provide the board with an update of the program of requirements for the new Elyria High School, and then allow you with an opportunity to address any questions or concerns that you may have as we go along. If you'll recall from the first presentation, we showed you this graphic. And this basically represents the 14 core areas that we program during the program of requirements. Program of requirements is that point in time where we sit down and we talk with the district staff, we talk with building administration, and we look at master schedules, and we determine of the square footage that's given for your building, how much of it goes into each of these different core areas. And some of those areas include the academic classrooms, your administrative areas, your phys ed, your music, your art, your special education spaces, student dining, and food service. So all of those areas are programmed individually, and the amount of space needed for them is determined through this series of discussions and a number of reviews that we've gone through. I know that Mr. Sutter and Ms. Quinn have spent a lot of time with us going back over these items and making sure that the building that you get is going to be something that will serve you well into the future. As we go through this, you're going to be looking at the sheets that you have, and they go in order. What you'll see on the screen as I'm talking is what you have highlighted in bright yellow. This is the summary page from your program of requirements. On this summary page, it gives us a tremendous amount of information. One of the first things it does is from your master plan, it tells us what the student capacity is projected to be at the time that you go into that building. Based on that 1,770 students and a square footage per student that's allowed, we come up with a building that totals 287,363 square feet. This includes 25 students that you have that are career tech students that are in the building part-time. There are a number of the areas in your building that are programmed based on enrollment, and we have to be able to accommodate those students in areas such as media center, student dining, and the size of the kitchen space. Coming down through, these are a list of the 14 core areas, and it tells how much of the square footage is going to be new construction. This existing column is square footage that's going to be renovated from the Washington building, and then the totals. As we come across the bottom, where it says actual gross square feet developed, you see 255,000 square feet plus that are new construction, 39,780 square feet that are from the Washington building, for a total of 294,882, larger number than we have at the top. The OSFC has given us a credit of 7,152 square feet in the Washington building. That's subtracted out then, so we are renovating fully 32,000 plus square feet of the Washington building. Brings us to that 287,000 plus square feet. And down at the bottom here, you're going to see a negative 367 square feet. When we get back into the food service area, I will address that negative number for you so that you're clear as to why there is a negative. Normally at the bottom there, we would zero that out. If you turn to your next page, what we're going to be looking at is the academic core areas. This is comprised of all of your classroom spaces, your science spaces, your teacher prep rooms, and project areas. High school classrooms, and these are your general classrooms, your foreign language, your social studies, your math classrooms. There are 31 900 square foot classrooms in the new construction. When we look at the existing construction, there are 16 classrooms. This 746 square feet represents an average of all of the classroom spaces in the Washington building. They range from about 600 square feet on out to a few of them that are over 1,200 square feet. So in order to reflect them on this document, we went with a pure average of those 16 rooms that we'll be renovating. In science, the program of requirements has us break this out into a general or a physics classroom, chemistry, and biology. When you look at them, biology and general and physics classrooms are very similar in design. And when we get into schematic design, we'll look a little bit more closely at how they're outfitted. That really isn't done at this level. But you have 4 1,200 square foot physics classrooms, 4 1,200 square foot chemistry classrooms, and 4 1,200 square foot biology classrooms. At this point, that's one additional science classroom than you have right now. And that helps the program to be a little bit more responsive to core curriculum initiatives at the state level. In the science area also, you see you have science prep rooms. There are 6 of those, so there'll be a prep room between each of the 2 science rooms as they're designed. Teacher prep and work areas, we paired up with instructional material storage. And if you look at these 8 restrooms, those are faculty restrooms. What we're hoping to do is take those and create 4 950 square foot team teacher meeting areas. So they will have a prep room, an area to work, and restroom facilities in a common team meeting area. Project classrooms. These tend to be larger classrooms that are for group projects, science classrooms, things like that. You have one 1,100 square foot project classroom in your new construction. And one of the larger spaces in the Washington building is 1,145 square feet, has been designated potentially as one of your project classrooms. So this is one of the first spaces you're really seeing some of the Washington building utilized. Small group classrooms, we did not include any at this point. There are some other areas where we have some small group rooms that are designed in. Instructional materials we mentioned. Multi-use rooms, these are larger meeting rooms that can be scheduled by teachers for multiple classrooms getting together, a group doing presentations, speeches, whatnot. You have one 1,500 multi-use classroom in your academic core area, and one of the other large areas in the Washington building as your other multi-use room. Potential use for one of the spaces is your drama classroom, which would be a little bit larger classroom to make it more functional for some of the activities that go on there. And the 1,500 square foot classroom would be subdivided so that it could be broken down into 2 smaller areas for use if need be. What I'd like to do is kind of break at the end of each page, and if you have any questions that you have about each page, we'd take them at that point in time, rather than trying to go through 14 pages and have you remember all the questions. And any questions, comments to this point with the academic core, that summary page?
Could you just talk about the purpose of a project classroom?
Those project classrooms are flexible classrooms. They may actually have a class scheduled into them if the schedule warrants that. Otherwise, they're set up so that they are more responsive to cooperative learning type activities, groups of students working on projects with teacher supervision, maybe a classroom that's coming in there. Again, it's a large enough space for speeches, drama classrooms to do small presentations.
So it would be available to multiple classroom teachers depending on the project?
Depending on the project and depending upon how scheduling would go at that point in time for that year for the classroom space. Okay. If you turn to your next section, this is special education. And I have my cheat notes here, so when you see me glancing down, remembering 14 pages can be a daunting task. There are 16